Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about how Ford is cracking down on people that are reselling their product. Before we get into the video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Well, let's get into it. So first off, before we dive into the video, I do need to give a shout out and thank you to the Raptor connection because, well, he is the one that prompted me to make this video because he posted some stuff on Instagram, and after I read that stuff, I'm like, you know what? We need to make an in-depth video talking about this topic, and so I'm going to include a link to his Instagram in the description down below. And frankly, I was going to talk about something completely different with today's video, so now we're completely changing gears. So again, thanks to the Raptor connection. Anyways, diving into the topic of Ford kind of fighting against people that are reselling their product. Ford basically announced today that they have this program that they're pushing onto dealerships to prevent people from reselling the new Ford Raptor R and other specialty product that Ford has released, or in-demand product like the Ford Bronco, the Ford F-150, Lightning, so on and so forth. And basically, what Ford has said to dealers is if you are selling a vehicle to a third, or to basically a third party that resells vehicles, don't sell it to them. And then on top of that, if you're selling a vehicle to a person that is then going to work with a third party that resells vehicles, don't sell it to them. Now, from what it sounds like, this isn't going to get rid of the dealership's allocation for that product. The dealership will still have that allocation, but they can basically move it to a different person. And so this is, on the surface supposed to prevent or reduce the reselling of Ford's product, because if the dealership knows that someone's going to buy it and then resell it through a third party, or just resell it themselves, or if they're selling, or a Ford dealership has orders from some sort of third party that just resells vehicles, then they can just boom, cut those off, and then they can move those allocations to customers that'll actually use the vehicles as they were intended to be used. Now, this sounds great. Like I said, sounds great on the surface, and I first off have to give, I guess, a high five to Ford and say, hey, good job on at least saying that there is a problem, because a lot of manufacturers won't even admit that there's a reselling problem with their product. So Ford is not only admitting that there's a problem, but they are taking steps to fix the problem. But the problem with their fix is this is the equivalent of a knight in shining armor running up to a dragon and just cutting off the tip of its tail. There's still a fire-breathing dragon to kill, and they're just basically getting a little portion of it. And let me explain. So first off, dealerships don't have to actually implement this. This is just a recommendation from Ford, right? If Ford tried to fully impose this on dealerships, there'd probably be a massive legal battle, and well, nobody wants that. And so again, being a recommendation, dealerships can choose to do this or not. Obviously, it does benefit dealers to go with this because it's going to make the dealerships look better, and it's also going to make Ford look better. So again, dealerships should do this, but it doesn't guarantee that they're going to do this. And I think that there's a large group of dealerships that probably won't do this because people working at those dealerships have some vested interest in the specialty product. And what I mean is, because of the crazy profits over the last few years, there have been a lot of people at dealerships that have been making way more money than they had in the past. And with all of this extra money, they have been buying and selling vehicles themselves personally, right? Instead of through the dealership to make extra money on the side because, well, they apparently haven't made enough money already. And so I am sure that there are many Ford dealers out there with managers, general managers, or just store owners that probably have Broncos and Lightnings and Bronco Raptors and Raptor Rs and regular Raptors on order for themselves to then go and flip and sell for a profit. And so why would they do this whole thing that Ford's recommending if they themselves are the flippers? And so that is the first little hole that I see in this thing that Ford is releasing. And then the other thing, frankly, is, a lot of dealers probably just won't care. They're like, hey, you know what? This person's paying this much over sticker for this specialty product. We don't care if they go and flip it and sell it because we are getting our money anyways. And the next person in line wouldn't be willing to pay this amount of markup on the vehicle. And so, again, I think that a large majority of the dealerships will abide by this, but I think there's also a large group that just frankly won't because they don't have to. But this also doesn't address the bigger problem, which is the massive markups that are happening on Ford's product, right? With the Ford Raptor, the Ford Raptor R, Ford Broncos as well. And I'm sure the Bronco Raptor, again, it hasn't, been officially like on the ground with dealerships yet, but once that hits the ground, I'm sure that'll have crazy markups on it. F-150 Lightnings, I mean, there's so many memes on Instagram of F-150 Lightnings being literally marked up double of what MSRP is. Like, it's just absolutely crazy. And again, this doesn't fix that whatsoever, because all this says is that dealers shouldn't sell these vehicles to people that are just going to go and flip them. But this doesn't make it so that dealers are not going to charge crazy markups like what they're charging, again, on the Raptor R, $25,000, $50,000 over sticker on average. And yes, I know that some of you are lucky enough to get a Raptor R allocation at MSRP, but you are in the minority, that is for sure. And so here's the deal. Like I said earlier in the video, I commend Ford for at least saying that there's a problem, but Ford needs to do more to actually fix the source of the problem. And the source of the problem is the fact that the supply-demand thing with Ford's product right now is completely out of whack. There's not nearly enough supply, and there's way too much demand on certain product. And yes, every other manufacturer's also been struggling with this over the last year and a half to 2 years. But here's the deal. I review cars at dealerships all the time, and I go to Ford lots, and they're not empty. They have cars there. But they have cars that nobody wants to buy, like EcoSports, for example. Now, I understand that certain factories are only tooled to produce certain vehicles. But at the same time, if you have this crazy demand issue, maybe stop producing the vehicles that nobody cares about and that nobody's buying, and that also, frankly, probably don't make you a lot of profit, and maybe retool those factories to produce vehicles that not only make a massive amount of profit for you as a manufacturer, but then would also meet the demand of customers. And so, yeah, I think that is the fix that Ford needs to pursue, is just figuring out how to get production up. For example, from a number perspective, and this is based on the research that I've done, I'm guessing that there is about 20,000 people roughly that can afford the new Ford Raptor R and want to buy the new Raptor R. Now, if you're wondering where I came about with that number came about by the fact that there's about 20 to 30,000 Ram TRXs that have been sold. Now, the reason that I am using a Ram TRX number to gauge my Raptor R number is because the Ram TRX is a direct competitor with the Ford Raptor R. It's been out for 2 model years now. It's going into its 3rd model year. And fully loaded, it's pretty close in price to a Ford Raptor R. But I think that there would be less people that would be able to purchase a Raptor R compared to a Ram TRX because, frankly, the Raptor R starts at a much higher price. So that's why I'm saying about 20,000 people and not 30,000 people, like about how many Ram TRX has been sold. But regardless of my number being right or wrong, the major point is Ford is only producing like 2,000 something Ford Raptor Rs for the initial run. So just with my number that, again, I think is pretty dang accurate, Ford is meeting about 10% of consumer demand with this product. So there's 90% of people that can afford a Ford Raptor R and want to buy a Raptor R that aren't going to get a Raptor R. Completely out of whack. I think that needs to be flipped. That ratio needs to be flipped. So what Ford needs to do is meet about 90% of the demand. That'll still make it so the Raptor R would be a very desirable product, but most of the people that want it would be able to actually get it. And on top of that, that would then reduce the amount of people that would resell the vehicle because the market value wouldn't be there, right? Because people would know they'd be able to go into a dealership and just order one. This is what's happened with the Ram TRX. Yes, the Ram TRX is getting flipped, but not nearly as much as Ford Raptors or just Ford product in general. So to come full circle with this video and sum things up, Ford released a program that is supposed to crack down on the reselling of their product, but there are loopholes with this program. I'm sure that people are going to be taking advantage of those loopholes. And, let me know in the comment section below if, I'm missing something, if these loopholes don't actually exist, but I feel like it's, from what I've read, it seems like it's pretty self-evident that dealers don't really have to follow this. It's just kind of Ford's recommendation, especially with the wording that Ford released on this program. But the bigger thing is that this isn't fixing the big issue that Ford's having, and that is the fact that their product is being sold for massive markups over MSRP by dealers. And the best fix for this is not to try to crack down on dealers in some weird way. It's just to produce more vehicles. If Ford produces more vehicles, if they get closer to meeting demand, then dealers will no longer have pricing power on this product, and they will be forced to sell the vehicles for what Ford wants them to sell them for, which is MSRP. And so I think the best way to fix this is to just meet 90% of demand. I feel like that's a reasonable ratio because, like I said earlier in the video, if you meet 90% of demand, most people that want a product are going to get it. There's going to be a small group of people that won't get that product, and that's what will keep the product desirable to where the manufacturer doesn't have to actually discount the product, right? Because obviously Ford doesn't want to put rebates on Bronco Raptors and Raptor Rs and all that kind of stuff because that just doesn't make sense. But at the same time, right, you know, they're a manufacturer that wants to please their customers and make money. And frankly, Ford could make a crazy amount of money if they just ramped up production on all of the product that people want. Like I said, the example I gave earlier in the video with the EcoSport, I doubt that makes Ford any money whatsoever because it's a unibody SUV thing that is super inexpensive compared to the product that people are wanting to buy, which is body on frame vehicles, Broncos and Raptors and F-150 Lightning, so on and so forth, right? That have massive amounts of profit built into them because they're easier to produce and they're so much more expensive, right? Ford can charge so much more money for them. And so like, yeah, like I said, I don't know what the fix is, but like, if it was possible to get rid of like the EcoSport and maybe even the Ford Escape factory and replace those, like retool those to build Broncos and Raptors and all that kind of stuff for the time being, I think that's what I would personally do with this situation. Let me know what you guys think is the fix for this whole situation. But yeah, that's my ideas on it, and I'll see all of you in the next video.